Hello everyone, welcome to By the Numbers. I'm FM20 and I hope you're doing well. You'll notice no FM on the monitor, it is just a big spreadsheet. Basically, I'm not even going to open Football Manager, I'm just going to take you through some of the stats stuff. So By the Numbers is meant to be about stats, so that's what we're going back to. So I'm going to show you what I'm working with, and some of this relates to some of the articles I've already written for Dictate the Game. There's an article I'm writing about this that might have already come out by the time this video does. I can't work out the dates. All the days are running into one currently. There's also something that Old Lady Plays is working on that I'm going to help out with as well, that uses some of the stuff in here. So it's all stats. So if you don't like the stats and you just want to follow Belfast, then just skip on a little bit to the next video. Basically, I'm going to use some stats to assess the strikers. So I think a couple of videos ago I mentioned in the swapping strikers video that we had a couple of pairings with Bonis and Devlin that had been with us for quite a few seasons. They've got us promoted, pretty much. I think in terms of league goals, the most league goals that either of them had got in a season have been about 13. So they were kind of 1 in 3 goal scorers in the league and a few cup goals here and there. But attribute-wise, they're not very good. And using the Female Football Manager's attribute spreadsheet, they were really far down the ranking. But instead, Ward and McLaughlin, the two newer strikers I got, had much better attributes, were much more highly rated by the spreadsheet from Female Football Manager that you can go and download yourself if you want to. So I've been giving Ward and McLaughlin a good opportunity, but they weren't scoring very much either. So then I started kind of giving Devlin and Bonis a chance every now and again, and they scored. So I thought, maybe this is where I need to go back to things like XG and other stats, rather than relying on the attributes, rather than relying on any kind of gut feeling, and also rather than relying on the fact that Devlin and Bonis had scored some goals, rather than relying on that to compare them to Ward and McLaughlin, because you remember goals, you don't remember all the times they're not scoring, not as much anyway. So I thought I'd go back to XG and some other things. So it's not just going to be XG, we're going to be talking about expected assists and another measure that I'm calling received pass assists or received pass XG, something like that. There'll probably be a real world stat that it relates to, but I'm not aware of it, but it'll exist, it'll have been done. But that's what I'm going to be using. So this is the spreadsheet that I'm using. You can't see down here at the bottom because my head is in the way. We've got a couple of different sheets, but this is the auto XG sheet. So basically this here is the kind of graph, the sort of just automated pitch. So if I go into this manual one here, you've got this is your kind of the zones on the pitch you would use to work out XG, kind of roughly. So shots from zone 8 and 6 have much lower XG than shots from 2, 5, 3, and so on. And 7's got very low scores and things like that. And you can see that here. So the expected XG of a shot from zone 8 is 0.05. But if you're down here in zone 1, it's all the way up to 0.36. So 1 in 3 would be 1 in 3 shots from here you'd expect to be a goal. And if you're not quite sure about XG, just have a look at the article I wrote for Dictate the Game. It breaks it down into stats. But basically, we can take the quality of the shots and work out how many goals we should be scoring. And what I had been doing was just using this and essentially working out how many shots were in each zone and then adding it up. And it was a bit of a pain, but now what I've got instead is this. So if I know there are... Oh, what I'm doing there. So this one here, if I know there are 5, pressing the wrong button entirely, that's what it is. So if I had 6 shots there, 2 shots here, 4 shots there, and 1 from there, then it adds it up for me and tells me that I've got an XG of 1.34. So it's nice and easy to do, and if I've got a different match where it's 8, 1, 4 over there, another 3 there, 1 there, then I've got 2.19, so I can just get it to add it all up for me. and then I can use it to do things. So one of the things I can do is to work out what the XG of my team is, generally, if I just want to look at all the shots in a match, or I can look at individual players and see what their XG is, which is one of the things I'm doing. I can also use it to look at XG against. So in this sheet here, this is for working out, the XG of the shots against you, essentially. So how many goals you expect the opposition to score against you from the ones that were sort of there, and how many did they score, so you can work out how efficient your goalkeeper is. And again, I've got a kind of Dictate the Game article about how to work that out again, and you're just using what the XG is. So you're using this again, but just for the shots against you, and then seeing how many did you concede compared to how many XG said you probably should concede, and using that over several matches to work out whether your keeper's keeping out more shots than they should, or whether they're letting in more than they should. So I've got this as well, and I think Already Plays is doing something keeper related. I won't reveal too much about it, but something keeper related I'm going to be helping out with as well. But again, there's an article for this if you want to. But what I wanted to do was look at something else called expected assists, or XA sometimes. So whilst every shot a player takes has got an expected goal rating, how likely it is that shot would be a goal, so on average how often would that a shot from there go in. You've also got XG, so this is every pass that's made would have a value based on how likely the person passed to would score from that position. And when you look at the real world models, it takes into account things like what type of pass. So is it a through ball? Is it high? Is it low? Is it cross? Which crosses tend to have lower expected assists at the end of them than, say, a through ball. Is it a square ball? Is it backwards? There are also statistics like packing. So packing is a German statistic which indicates how many players have been taken out by that particular move. So if it's a pass that goes over the top of the defence, how many defenders have been taken out by that one pass? The more you take out, the more dangerous that pass is. Likewise, if someone's got a dribbling move, how many people have they dribble past? The more they dribble past, the more dangerous an attacking move it is. And a lot of models of XA, so expected assists, take stuff like that into account. And in Football Manager, you can have a look and you can see where players have passed to. It's really fairly easy. And I might show you at the end. I might load up FM at the end of the video just to show you what that looks like. But it's within FM, it's very difficult using like the team analysis or the player analysis to work out what type of pass it was, how many players were taken out by that pass and things like that. The game does give you things like key passes and chances created, but it's not entirely clear why one pass is a key pass and why another pass isn't a key pass. So what I've done is just use XG again, but rather than count how many shots from each of these areas there are, I'm counting how many passes a player makes into these areas. And again, if a player passes, 3 balls into this area, 2 over here, 4 over there, then over the course of that match, you'd expect them to contribute an XG of 0.87. So from their contribution, you're getting almost a goal a game you'd expect in terms of the danger of the positions they're in. Now, it doesn't mean players will actually score them, but just on average, they're creating the equivalent of almost an assist, almost a goal every match just from passing, where they're passing to. And there's an XG for every position on the pitch, including in your own half. It's just a very small XG. But what I've done is just concentrate on the attacking side of it in terms of attacking the opposition's half. So I did that to work out essentially how threatening are the passes being made by a player. So a player is really creative, he's getting passes into good, dangerous areas to other players, will have a high score for their X assists. They'll be contributing essentially more goals potentially as recorded by this. And it's just using the same XG baseline to do that, which is not perfect, it's very crude, but it's the best you can do in Football Manager at the moment unless you watch each individual pass a player makes and record the type of pass, how many players taken out of it and so on, which I'm not going to do. So this is a good kind of crude halfway house. So we can record XG from a player's shots, we can record X assist from their passes, and the other thing I've included in here is their received pass position. So you can see what position players are in using the sort of in-game stats when they receive the ball. So you can see how many passes they've made, but also how many passes they've received and where. And this is good for working out if your players are getting into dangerous positions. So if you've got a striker who's not scoring, is it because they're shooting from terrible places? Is it because, or is it because they're not getting into dangerous positions? So there's a big difference between a striker who's not getting into the right positions and a striker who's getting into the right positions but not scoring from them. And using the received pass position, you can work that out. And again, it's a case of just using this. So if, for example, my striker has been found here 3 times, here twice, here once, and that's it. Well, actually, you should probably give them another 2 there, something like that. If they've been found mainly in the box, even if it's spread out across the box like this, 3, 2, 3, and 1 here, then you'd expect an XG of about 1, just over 1. We're getting in good, dangerous positions from just a few places. Let's say they've got 6 shots from there. They've got another 3 from there. They've got 1 from there. Sort of 2 from there, maybe. They're still getting just shy of 1, but a lot of it's coming from this position here that's not very dangerous. They've got more shots potentially than the other strikers getting, but they're not. They're not in dangerous positions, essentially. You should probably say positions rather than shots for clarity. So these positions here aren't dangerous for a striker. They've got such a small value. What's it? So 1 shot from here is only worth 0.12. 1 shot from here is only worth 0.05. But can't type, can I? 1 shot from there is worth 0.15, so it's much higher than say out here. It's only a little bit higher than here, but it's gradually higher. The more central and closer you get to the goal, the more dangerous the position's in. So I can use this to work out what position strikers are in when they get the ball and determine how dangerous those positions are. So a striker who's good at getting into good positions should have a high sort of XG from their received position as well. So I can now rate strikers on what their XG is, what their X assist is. So some strikers are more creative than other strikers, and what their XG would be just based on the positions they receive passes in, to see how good they are at getting into dangerous positions. And that's what I did for my striker pairings. So I had 5 matches where Bonis and Devlin were playing, and 5 matches where McLaughlin and Ward were playing, and I recorded all the XG from their shots, all their X assists from their passes in the opposition half, and all their sort of XG you'd expect from their received pass position, which is a really awkward way of saying it. So I've broken it down match by match. I've made a note of what position they're all playing in. So Bonis and Ward were target men, Devlin and McLaughlin were deploying forwards. So you can see, for example, in this match, Bonis had 18 passes and got an X assist of 1.3. So the passes they were making were putting players into positions where if they shot from them, you'd expect 1.3 goals to come from. In terms of Bonis's own positioning, so this is the XG from their received pass position. In this match, Bonis was getting into quite a few dangerous positions. So from where he was getting into position, you'd actually expect 2.5 goals on average to be scored. So he's getting in very dangerous positions from around 34 received passes. Per pass, that's actually quite low, but cumulatively over the course of a match, he should have been able to put something away. And then we will look at his actual XG from the shots he actually took. So not the position he was in or the position he was passing to, but the shots he took. He actually only had an XG of 0.36. But he did manage to score, he did manage to assist. So in this match, this 1 assist kind of fits with the fact you've got an X assist of 1.3. This goal of 1 is higher than the 0.36 you'd expect from the XG. but perhaps maybe reflects the fact he was just generally getting into good positions as well. So I did this for every one of those 5 matches for each of those players. So it's not a huge sample, but I've got the baselines. I don't need a huge sample for this. I'm just looking at how they've done in these past few matches. And then from there, I've worked out in this table down here, is my head in a way? Just let me check. Nah. So in this table, just up here, just above me, what we've got here is each of the strikers and the 2 positions. And we've got the average assists that they've got, their average XG from their received position, their average XG, number of goals, number of assists per match, what their average is for that. So Bonis on average is passing enough to generate 0.8 of a goal, and this is from an average of about 12 passes. In terms of the positions he's getting into dangerous positions that are worth maybe about 1.6 goals if he managed to get a shot off instantly from those positions. And again, this is from about 22 received passes. His XG is actually much lower though, so it's 0.4. It's about 25% of what his XG was there. And then he's getting 0.6 of a goal on average, 0.4 of an assist. And from this, I've already highlighted a few bits, but when you compare them, Bonis is the most creative. So he's getting 0.84, and then Ward and McLaughlin are in the 0.7s, and Devlin is down here in 0.666, the mark of the Devlin beast. In terms of dangerous positions, again, he's the highest, 1.6. He's getting into more dangerous positions more frequently. And Ward and McLaughlin are roughly equal, about 1.3, and then Devlin's the worst again. In terms of XG, Ward's actually got the highest XG, so he's got 0.6, and then it's Bonis. And then Devlin and McLaughlin are pretty terrible at 0.2 over the course of the match on average. And then in terms of the amount of average goals scored, Ward and Bonis are the ones doing the best with 0.6 on average. And Devlin's got 0.4, McLaughlin's got 0.2, they're both pretty bad in comparison. But the fact that Bonis and Ward are kind of neck and neck for goals kind of reflects the fact that Ward's getting a better XG, but Bonis is getting a better XG from the positions he's getting in. So from this, the general impression it's giving me is that Bonis and Ward are my 2 better strikers. Devlin's terrible. Devlin's not good for much. McLaughlin is middle of the road, but he's not the best at any one particular thing. He's a good runner-up in some areas, but he's not great. So Bonis, even though his attributes are terrible, is worth giving more game time to, and Ward is also pretty good. So rather than having Bonis and Devlin as a pair and Ward and McLaughlin, I should think about having Bonis and Ward as a pair and getting rid of Devlin, maybe bringing someone else in. Another thing to consider is one position I'm using is the target man, and one position I'm using is the deep lying forward. The target man, much more creative, much better positioned, getting much higher XG, much higher kind of goal scoring threat. So these are both positions that are on attack as well. So the target man's my main kind of outlet there for goals and creativity. So one of the things I might want to consider is maybe changing this deep lying forward to a different role. Maybe I want them to be a pressing forward instead, for example. Or it could be that it's just the trade-off I've made. The target man is the main outlet and the deep lying forward is doing other work. So they're not going to be the goal outlet. They may be important for something else. So if I change them to a pressing forward, maybe there's a knock-on effect that I don't realise or something like that. But it's something to consider as well if I can't get my strikers to work. Now over here you'll probably notice I've got 2 other boxes. So you've got this one, which is the combined creative threats, and you just did combined creative threat. And basically the combined creative threat, I've just added up XA, XG from received passes, and XG. And for the adjusted one, what I've done is I've added expected assists to the average of the XG from the received position and the XG that they had. Because the XG from the received position and XG generally should be quite related. To give a kind of general one single number to use for this, and it kind of fits what we already mentioned, which is what it should do. So Bonus is the best combined threats with 2.9, and then Ward at 2.7. Devlin doesn't even break 2. McLaughlin's low 2.3. And again, when you adjust it, so essentially combining the received pass XG and XG, same idea. The gaps aren't huge, but it's still Bonus coming out as the winner. But what I've also got here is the kind of XG loss or the XG conversion. And this is kind of a weird one. So some of you might have thought, if they're getting into these dangerous positions that are worth 1.6 goals, how come their XG is 0.4? To get this XG of 1.6, all Bonus has to do is receive a pass. It doesn't matter what happens afterwards, because he's received a pass in a dangerous area. We're assuming that if from that dangerous area he's received it, if he managed to get a shot, he'd get 1.6 or 1.6 goals on average from that match. But to get that value, all he's got to do is receive it. But in reality, obviously, he's got to then decide what to do with the ball. So he might shoot. If he shoots from that position, then he gets the value from that pass. Or he might decide to dribble. Or he might decide to pass. Or he might get tackled before he can do anything. Or the whistle might get blown and nothing might happen. So in most players, their XG from their received passes is going to be higher than the XG from the shots they eventually take, because stuff will happen in the meantime. They might get tackled, they might make a poor decision, they might pass to someone else who's in an even better position, or they might make a poor decision and pass someone else who's in a poor position, or just mess up the pass entirely. So for most general average players, there's going to be a loss from their received position to their XG. Really good players might see a bump because maybe they move into a better position, so maybe they dribble into a better position from there. And they sort of conjure something out of nothing. But most players, like 90% of players, I'd expect to lose some of that value from their received pass to their actual XG in the end. And one of the things I checked was what percentage of their XG from their received pass are they losing. So what's their drop off essentially? How much value are they losing from the passes they're getting with the decisions they're making? So for Bonus, going from 1.6 to 0.46 is about a 70% loss, or 71%. Devlin's losing about 80%, and he didn't have much to lose in the beginning anyway. Ward's only losing 50%, and McLaughlin's losing again about 80%. So again, it's the same picture. Devlin's the worst. Devlin's almost, he's not quite the worst. McLaughlin's the worst, but they're both losing 80+% of their XG, so making poor decisions, running down blind alleyways, passing when they should have shot, that kind of stuff. Ward's losing a bit, but not a huge amount. He's losing about half of his XG. So again, he might be making a few poor decisions, or might be passing and providing a little bit more, but not a huge amount. And Bonus is losing quite a bit, but he's got such a higher amount anyway, that it's not too bad. So in fact, if Bonus could make slightly better decisions, or had slightly better options, then his final XG would sort of go up a little bit. So that's all very nerdy. So I'm sorry there's no Football Manager in this, but basically from this, I'm just looking at 10 games. It was really easy to do as well, going game by game. I'll show you at the end of this bit what it looks like in the actual match on FM, what it looks like on these screens. But it's really easy to do. And from this, I've made the decision that Devlin's getting kicked out. I'm not going to renew his contract. Bonus will get his contract renewed. Ward is currently on a non-contract, so I'm going to try and renew that to keep him. McLaughlin I might keep as a backup if I can't find anyone better. So it's a very long-winded statistical way of getting there, but this is based not on their attributes, because if he was based on their attributes, I would have got rid of Bonus and Devlin. It's based on their actual performance. Bonus, even though his attributes aren't great, is much more creative, he's getting better positions, has an okay XG. I mean, all of this XG is terrible for strikers, but that's because my strikers are terrible. It's kind of relative. Ward's going to be kept and given an opportunity with Bonus because of this. McLaughlin we might keep. We might make a tactical change and get rid of the deep lying forward, but this is all based on the stats that I've got. And I can do this and run through this and do this season by season. So if I'll just pause for a second and I'll show you what it looks like on the screen. If you want to work out how to do it yourself using a spreadsheet like this, have a look at the Dictate the Game article I've done to see the breakdown of the value, so you can calculate it by hand if you want to. And I'll just show you what it looks like on the actual Football Manager screen when we're looking at matches. Okay, so I just said I'd show you it, so let's show you where you get the information from. Let's try this 4-1 win against Warren Point, because that's a nice one to do. You click on it to get your match reports, go up to analysis, and then go to players. Click on your team. If it's a match that was a few matches ago or so on, it might, when you click on it, reload the information or generate the match report. That's fine. And you can get various bits of information. So if you want to, for example, on the shots one here, custom stuff. If you want the shots one, you've got these different columns. So you've got goals, shots that missed, shots that hit the woodwork, shots that were saved, and shots that were blocked. And what you want is basically all of these, including the goal. That's counted separately. So this is Mark Ward. So we can see here that he's got a central shot there. That one also probably counts as central. So these ones are probably both zone 3, just for that one. This one's in zone 6. This one's in zone 5, I think it is. This one would be zone 5. These ones borderline, so you might need to watch the match to see exactly where they fall. But you've got all the shots, so you can just put them into the spreadsheet. I mentioned put them into the right zones, it'll add it up for you for the XG. If you want to look at the passes, the events there, we just go to passes. And again, we've got pass assists, passes completed, passes intercepted, passes out of play, passes received, which is our important one, key passes, chances, and passes that hit the woodwork, which is a weird one. Now, what you want, first of all, to do for this is passes completed is going to be your focus if you're looking at X assists. So let's click on Mark Ward, so we can see all these passes he completed. And this is showing you all of the passes he completed across all of the pitch. What we want are just the ones he did in the opposition's half. So if you go down here to where it says pitch area, and just click attacking half, it just gives you the passes made in that half. So attacking this goal. So it aggregates it across both halves of the game. So you can see from the arrow where he's passed to. And then when you want to work out the X assist, you're just counting how many of these passes are made into which zone. So you can see actually almost all of Ward's passes are made either in zone 8 or into zone 6. None of them are made into the box, all these completed passes. And if you had any key passes or chances created, they would overlap. Trying to see. So let's look at Blair Downey for a second. So you've got all these passes here, and it just highlights which one was a key pass, which one was a chance created from there. So you don't need to click those ones as well if you don't want to when looking at them. It's all taken into account with the passes completed for that. And it's the same for the passes received, or the PRD, they call it in there. Click on that, and now you're just counting where they've received it. So you can see he's only actually receiving the ball 3 times in the box. Once centrally, which is when he potentially scored, I think it was from here. If we show the linked events. So there you can see that he tipped it from there. You count them up again, put them into the zones that you need to put them in, and you can work out what the XG is from where they received the pass. So in some of these places where he's received the pass, he's not then gone and made a shot from there. So he's been dispossessed or he's passed instead. And it's really easy to count up as you go along, because I've only had to do it for a couple of players every match. Visually, this is very easy down the centre here, you split it into zones 8 and 6. This is zone 7 and 7. This bit here is zone 5, this bit here is zone 5, this is 3, this is 1, that's 2, that's 2, that's 4, that's 4. It's very easy to kind of break it down into segments and do it that way. So have a go if you want to, but I've used it to effectively cull some of my terrible strikers. Thanks very much for watching.